Hey, hola, bon dia, folks. Carl Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal live stream, YouTube, and podcast. Loving all your comments and feedback on the YouTube channel. Getting particularly interesting there on YouTube regarding our up and coming Good Morning Portugal Wine Club. I think we're going to do that, although we might have to change the name. It just doesn't sound right, does it, to have a Good Morning Wine Club, but who knows, that might really work for us, and that's how things might become in this post-COVID world of ours. So good morning to you wherever you are. Think about joining us, where we're going to select a bottle of wine that we can all get our hands on. I mean, that's the idea really, is to make sure we can all get the same bottle of wine, a bit like a book club where everyone's got the same book, and they taste it that week, and we can do something like this or a teleconference. And Eloise has very kindly offered, I think, or am I sort of volunteering her here, but to lead us in some proper wine tasting. And of course, as the teleconference progresses, I'm sure it'll move from sort of, quite upright and proper tasting into chat and drinking and quaffing. So Stephen joins us this morning. Bon dia on VE Day in UK. Good morning to you, Stephen. Yes, of course. Bon dia to you. And I don't know if the right greeting is Happy VE Day, but yes, a right and proper acknowledgement of VE Day in UK today. Bon dia todos. Very good, Druba. Bon dia todos from Druba in Sintra. Neil Perkins. I think, yes, a man of few words and a couple of emoticons. I love this, Neil. Keep your mask on, join the wine club, and a wave. Thank you to you, Neil, and to you, Claire and Steve. Looking forward to the show today. Yeah, we're talking with any luck to Sanya, who I hope will join us soon, and she's going to tell us her story. And this is a new feature on the show. Personal Stories Portugal. People, it's pretty self-explanatory, really, isn't it? People joining me to tell me about their life in Portugal, and it's particularly poignant inclusion today with Sanya, who got in touch with me to tell me how difficult she was finding it with her restaurant that she owns, her and her husband, and how little help they're getting from the bank and apparently the government as well in terms of surviving whilst they're paying their staff and keeping things afloat. They're not getting a great deal of help and assistance. So we'll be talking about that a bit later on, if she can navigate the technology. And Julie, I've been trying to track you down. I did PM you a wave from sunny Fundao. Great to hear from you. Oh yes, of course, Fundao and Fungi Friday. We're delaying till next week. The guys from Shimajito are preparing a 4-week introduction to mushrooms and mushroom growing for us happy homesteaders, and that will begin next Friday with CEO Adriel. And he'll be alternating with Michelle from the company as well. And they're going to be telling us about agri-tech, about how they got into mushroom farming, how to grow mushrooms, how to go into it commercially, and the importance really of low impact businesses and lean and agile businesses, of which Shimajito specialize in, and I'm getting involved with them and hoping to grow some mushrooms with them as well. So looking forward to them. But that's next Friday. Fungi Friday begins in earnest next Friday, and you remind me because they're in Fundao, where you are this morning, Julie. And an apology to you because I was rather snooty and snobby about the Mathias Rosé, which then caused me to look into it fully yesterday. So I hope you saw that and you saw my apology for my knee-jerk reaction about the kind of cachet that surrounds Mathias Rosé from the 70s. And obviously, how wine is approached in Portugal. Mathias Rosé here is something you drink to refresh yourself when you're sparking up the barbecue, it would seem. Or certainly Gordianos, our wine correspondent on the YouTube channel, was saying that. A refreshing drink, and there's some very different grades of wine here. It isn't just wine, is it? There are those fizzy things that you drink as an aperitif, and then you move into the more serious wines, and that's what we'll be doing on our wine club. So apologies to you, Julie, and I hope the deep dive into Mathias Rosé yesterday was useful and interesting to you. And I recall it's Saddam Hussein's favourite, as well as the Queen of England. And pictured yesterday Jimi Hendrix swigging from a bottle, straight from the bottle, Mathias Rosé. So let's have a look at Jorge Branco's coverage, our COVID update, as we do every morning. And anything else you want to say? I mean, please just chime in with your comments and how you're feeling about things at the moment. This is the new normal in many ways, isn't it? Currently, before we go into the lifting of the lockdown. I think we've got used to this. When our guest Mick was on, Dr. Mick, he was talking about, how after 28 days we get used to things. We're pretty much there, aren't we? In how we've got used to this new way of life, and that even the title on my screen, Bon fin de semana, a good weekend to you, is kind of meaningless because one day is much like the next. But I think it's still useful to practice your Portuguese. So make a note of that if you don't already say it. Bon fin de semana, and try that out today. So looking at Jorge Branco's coverage, today is our second day in a row with a slightly higher increase in cases than we've grown accustomed to. Both today and yesterday, 480 new cases. This is the reporting from the 7th of May. So this came out yesterday. So he's talking about 480 new cases a day before. They sat at around the 2% increase mark. Since the end of April, that figure has been less than 1% most days. Most of these new cases, 400 yesterday and 224 today, that was yesterday, forgive me for throwing you around in the time machine, are in Lisbon. Today marks another 16 deaths, which is more or less what we've been seeing now for a week. Confirmed recoveries are very high for a second day in a row, which is great, isn't it? Let's start at the bottom of his infographic. So officially, as of yesterday, May the 7th, 2,258 recoveries, tested recoveries. In terms of deaths, 1,100, just over 1,105 deaths, which is a 1.47 increase. And that 2% increase in the number of confirmed cases, 533 new cases as of May the 7th, bringing the total to 26,715. There won't, this is the bad news in his newsletter, be any summer music festivals in Portugal. Deep down, we probably knew it would come to this. The big Portuguese music festivals had been clinging on to hope as major festivities around the world were cancelled. Glastonbury, of course, is cancelled. But today, the decision was taken out of their hands. The Council of Ministers decided to prohibit music festivals until September the 30th this year, Publico reported. That will affect Nos Alive, Superbox, Super Rock, Sudoeste, Paradeish de Cora, Vila de Muros, and Primavera Sound. Ticket holders for festivals and concerts cancelled because of the pandemic, which were originally scheduled between February 28th and September 30th this year, are expected to receive a voucher of equal value to their ticket, the council said. It's unclear whether the festivals will attempt to delay until later in the year or call the whole thing off. But we know Paradeish de Cora will try to come back next year with the same lineup. Wow, what a chaos in the entertainment world. And there's George's picture of Kendrick Lamar, the rather marvelous Kendrick Lamar performing there on stage. Extraordinary measures in Lisbon. Lisbon is reinforcing a social emergency fund to help families and creating a helpline for all goods, services and equipment necessary for institutions throughout the city. Diario de Noticias reports the two moves are expected to cost 25 million euros and are part of a package of 15 extraordinary measures, including rent suspensions for commercial establishments in municipal spaces until June 30th. Social, cultural, sporting and recreational institutions in those spaces will receive rent exemptions. The council will also regularly buy fresh produce from the producers who used to sell at markets that have been closed and deliver it to social work organizations. That's a good turn up, isn't it? There will also be a team created to help small businesses and a marketplace set up to match the needs of business institutions and municipalities with the services of the startup community. So hopefully that will help Sanya if she is able to join us this morning. No sign of her so far, unfortunately, but I'm hoping she'll be able to come through and join me via StreamYard. I'm going to send her a quick message now live on air to see how she's doing. How are you doing? Question mark. And if she doesn't tell us her personal story, I might have to share mine with you this morning, and we'll have a little Friday morning chat. So yes, back to your comments. Oh no, actually back to George and paid parking returns in Porto and Lisbon. I don't think you need to know a great deal more about that. Is that your roller that we've got a picture of there? That's such an old and distinctive vehicle, isn't it? The Rolls Royce. So parking charges reinstated in Lisbon there. Madonna, in brief, revealing that she had COVID-19. And Marcelo has asked Xi Jinping on the phone to speed up ventilator delivery. That would have been an interesting conversation, wouldn't it? And on a lighter note, if you're a shopaholic, And I'm guessing there's at least one Portuguese word you're pretty familiar with, saldos. That's sales for people like me. This is George speaking, who try their best to avoid shopping for anything ever. Yes, that's me too, George, actually. In an attempt to help shops get rid of excess stock and stimulate the struggling economy, the government has decided discount sales during May and June won't count towards the yearly limit of 124 days. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize that. Portuguese obviously imposes a yearly limit of sales of 124 days. You'd never know, would you, walking about seeing sale signs everywhere you go? That's right. Portugal, like many other European countries, imposes limits on bargain sales. So I guess be on the lookout for bargains as more shops reopen over the next few weeks. You can do the same too. Please do subscribe to this. It's an excellent update. georgebranco.substack.com. Thank you, George, for your continuing coverage of what's going on. I have downloaded it on my PC, but how do I connect to you? Oh gosh, okay. Click the link. It's very simple. This is how you join me here on the Good Morning Portugal show. You can do it via PC. This is what Sonia's trying to do, or you can use your phone, which is what I'm telling her now as I'm producing the show as well as presenting it. But we may have to go with my personal story rather than hers. But let's go back to your comments, and hopefully, fingers crossed, she will be able to join us. Ha from Julie. Yes, apology accepted. I enjoyed a cold glass of Mathias Rosé last night after cherry picking on the farm. Now that sounds like a thoroughly civilized and excellent afternoon and evening, doesn't it? Picking cherries on the farm. And of course, Fundão is very well known, notorious for its cherries. And yes, so I'm glad you were able to enjoy your wine without being bothered by my rather yeah, they were. It was just a funny thing, isn't it? Snobbery's like that, I suppose, isn't it? It's just the opinions you've had for a long time, and you just come out with them. I must review Mathias Rosé. That could be one of our units, if you like, one of our evenings of the wine club. We'll go back to Mathias Rosé and give it a go again. Morning, beautiful people. I've fallen back in love with Fridays because it's the last day of homeschooling my kids for the week. Bring on the weekend. So definitely for you, Chantal Strubel, a bon fin de semana. That will mean something to you, bon fin de semana. So do please try that. In the Happy Homestead group, which of course is the social group for those who are getting kind of into the hardcore happy homesteading for Portugal, being here and sort of getting back to nature, getting close to the ground. I think that's the way to go, folks, in the recession that's coming. Is to cut your overheads and get back to nature, grow your own food and all that, and get back into the homesteading. But Eloise joined us yesterday, or added yesterday, in the group, some Portuguese language lessons specifically about the garden. So thanks for that, Eloise. So she, who will be leading our wine tasting as well as a key member in the Happy Homesteading there, put in some really nice language units. And that of course will introduce you to a particular kind of teacher in there, Portuguese language lab, I think they're called. But you'll see for yourself if you join Happy Homesteaders and look at those language units, specifically horticulturally oriented. You can follow that teaching style if you prefer. I'm a bit behind with my practice Portuguese, but that's my kind of way of learning because it's podcast based and online, and I can get my 8-year-old lad Digby to help. Well, not help, but yes, actually help, but join me in that because he's like me, likes to look at screens whilst learning things. So no sign of Sonia just yet. Hopefully she'll be able to join us. I saw a really interesting post in Pure Portugal this morning, and you might have a view on this. I guess this is a personal story by way of starting this conversation about personal stories in Portugal. And somebody would ask the question, hello, everyone. I'm planning on moving to Portugal in July. I would like to know how much would be okay, in inverted commas, to live on per month with a family of 3. Can you give me a rough estimate of how much stuff costs and what monthly rent looks like, etc., groceries? And just recently, I've really been shocked at the cost of shopping, I have to say, when I go to our local Lidl. Obviously it's better to go to the market, but going to the market is, a bit risky at the moment. One person answering that question says 3 people, you would need at least 1,000 euros per head per month for very basic lifestyle, and that would be tight. To which there were many responses. I mean, to me, that would be 1,000 per head. Given our family of 5 here, if we have 5,000 euros to play with, I don't think that would be tight. I think that would be pretty luxurious, quite frankly. So I don't know what you think about that. Whether you think you could live on 1,000 euros per month in Portugal. And, people don't like talking about money, do they? But I think this is going to be an issue for people. My response on that, as I'm sure you will appreciate, I had a view on that. I said it's likely a recession similar to, perhaps worse than, that of 2008 will befall us, will befall this and other European countries. In such times, low overheads are really important unless your income savings far exceed the standard. I'd say this is a time to look at living as simply as possible, as well as challenging all your existing lifestyle costs. Simply trying to live how you've always lived, except in a new country, will bring challenges, especially if the broader context is recessionary. Alongside costs, consider access to nature, strength of community, and social capital, which in my view and experience are equally important. So that was how I chipped in there. But a very interesting thread nonetheless. Pure Portugal, living the good life. I imagine one or two of you are already members of that. So our guest is struggling to get involved, and so I might have to write off our first go at that personal lives Portugal feature, which I was hoping to do this morning. And we'll just keep chatting until we feel like it's time to go off and enjoy our weekend, or bon fin de semana. Here we go. Look at this, Druba. We're living off around 1,200 euros per head, four heads, kids of 10 and 15, but growing our own 90% of veggies and non-veggies. I guess that would include the eggs from your almighty chicken. I was going to call it a chicken facility. Let's just say chickens, shall we? Your livestock. You're not your wild stock, your livestock there. That's really impressive. And, to me, that sounds about right by local standards as well. The Portuguese minimum wage is pitiful, really, by European standards. And I think you're doing a great job there. Not only doing a great job, Drew, but I think, that is the shape of things to come. In a recession, obviously, income shuts down, tightens up, and you have to make a little go a long way. And I just think in the bigger picture, what's happening at the moment is that we're going to learn perhaps to shift away from the money addiction. And you may have seen an interview I've done with Freya Thiekin, who, yes, good moment actually to talk about Freya, who is running a course online. She lives in Porto, and she runs something called Emotionally Wealthy People, and is looking at our addiction to money and the financial system that we've got, and she's running a course on that. So go to emotionallywealthypeople.com if you want to find out more about that. And I just think collectively, a lot of people are already doing this, aren't they, around Portugal? Looking at a different way of life, getting off the grid, getting off the financial grid, because it is such a punishing master, isn't it? If the income supply dries up and you haven't figured out your life in a different way that isn't entirely dependent on the steady flow of income. Come these sorts of times, come 2008 when that happened, people felt it. Here, look, thank you for sharing your personal insight stories here. We're a family of 6 and living off 1,500 euros or less. And I have to say, you guys who are doing that, we're doing that. This is a model, I think, for how it's possible to live and how we can reduce our addiction to the financial system that we've got, which is, as I say, is really punishing when it breaks down. And we're finding this, aren't we? This is what Sanya was going to talk about. Chantal was adding there, we grow our own veggies and we have chickens. Same here. And this is what happy homesteading is all about, isn't it? And that, how it is that we can help more people do that. And because Portugal is a good place to do that, you're going to struggle to do that. I mean, I know there was the program, The Good Life, where they did that in Surrey, didn't they? Started growing their own veggies and chickens back in the 1970s, when people, I bet a bottle of Mathias Rosé was featured in The Good Life at some point. But it's kind of hard, I think, to do when you're in suburban Surrey, or substitute the suburb of your choice from where you come from. But it is much easier to do it here in Portugal. That's why we came here, because we figured it would be easier. It's part of the DNA, isn't it, of Portugal, I think, and the homesteading. So thank you, both Druba and Chantal, for sharing, your personal stories. I'm sure. Come on, join me one morning and talk about that. How you're managing to live off to what a lot of people will be a tiny amount of money, and you're growing your own veg and you've got your own chickens. And of course, mortgages and rent are the big, I was going to say killer, aren't they? Well, they are in a way financially. And also, yes, this is right. Absolutely. Gary agreeing with me here. It also depends on if you're renting or have your own place. Just what I was about to say there, because even, the cheapest of rents in Portugal of 200, 300, 400 euros, that's a lot of money to find before you even eat. And what a pretty past this is, where we have made life so difficult just to meet the basic costs before we can even kick back and enjoy ourselves. But I guess, that's a lot to do with the Dr. Mick territory that we went into the other day. Our own personal sense of well-being is generated from within, isn't it? Of course. But, the external circumstances do play on our minds, do play on our situations. And we've got to find a better way of doing this. And of course, that's why a lot of us have come to Portugal. So I hope to get Sanya on joining me another time. We've had a techno fail there. I think, actually, if you want to join me, it's very easy using StreamYard. You just hit the link and join me. Oh, here's something we could do. We could do a very quick look at ticks. We were going to do looking at how to manage and deal with ticks. And of course, Alison has reminded me, which is not the best assumption, is it? Or the best, not assumption, the best connection to make. I see good morning, Carl, from Alison Thompson, and I think immediately of ticks. But please, Alison, put your URL of your blog in the comments as well. And I'm going to try and find that now. Because I think it's living the Portugal dream, right? And we will look at the. Let's do that. Let's move away from personal stories Portugal and look at how to do this. This is an article from Alison's Living the Portugal Dream blog, which he said I was welcome to feature. So we'll do that now as we conclude. But thank you, Gary. Thank you, Chantal. Thank you, Druba, for your insights into living lightly, minimizing overheads, and dealing with that question of what does it cost to live a kind of okay life in Portugal that was asked. And yeah, I forgot you were talking about ticks. There you go, living the Portugal dream. That's what I'm going to have a look at now and just share this with you as our final part of the live stream today. Tricks with Ticks is the name of the article, as you can see on your screen there. And let's go through that with you now. And most people, haven't they? If it's not themselves, it's someone in the family who has found one of these loathsome creatures on their skin and then thought about how to remove it. Excuse me. I'm struggling to find the name of the author here, and I'm sure Alison will help us. I just want to give a credit. Oh, Kathy Clark is the author of this one. And here's a quick guide then to what to do with ticks. She wrote an account of an unpleasant brush with a tick. I don't think there's any other kind of brush with a tick, is there? And although we are pretty careful, we got a potentially serious disease. Oh, yes, it can be fatal. This is Lyme's disease. And we were not even aware that a tick had bitten. You can find loads of sites with info on the diseases and life cycle of ticks. I just wanted to help you with some pointers of what to do about ticks. I hope it helps. Best way to deal with ticks at home is to make life hard for them and break their life cycle. Yes. How to kill ticks. I always kill any I find so they cannot reinfect or breed. How do I kill them? 1, pinch them with your nails. The smaller ones snap and you can see and or hear it. The larger ones, especially with a full bladder. Ew! Sorry if you're eating your breakfast right now, are harder to squash. Be sure to wash your hands after. Now, some people do use a credit card because you want to make sure you get the whole head, the whole part of the body and any residue of the body, including the head, out of your skin. Put the tick on a stone and mash with another stone, showing no mercy here. I set them on fire. I've actually done that. Make sure ones with a bladder are really dead, as these are the ones that may produce the eggs. Oh, God. Place in water. 1 centimeter is deep enough. Add a drop of soap or detergent to break the meniscus. a science lesson here as well, or slosh water to be sure they don't float to freedom. Put them in a sealed tub. Yogurt pot with a lid is grand, but don't think you're eating a yogurt treat later on, obviously. Put a tissue into the pot and spray the tissue with fly spray. This will last for at least a month before another squirt is needed. Pop them in when you find them. This is my chosen method. She's got a whole yogurt pot full of old dead ticks with fly spray just in case. But the pot needs to be with you. Carry around a tick pot. I don't know. This is an idea that I have yet to test. Put into a sealed pot folded fly paper. Bang the pot before opening to see any still free will be knocked to the bottom. This is a really serious approach, isn't it? Clean your beasts, okay? Ticks will feed on just about anything. Mice, rats, cats, pigs, dogs, horses, birds, snakes, humans, etc., etc. Apparently they have preferences. Their favorite food is mice for the little ones and deer for the biggies. Yeah, deer ticks are the ones where the Lyme's disease comes from, I believe. I'm no doctor. I don't think this lady is either, but she's sharing her personal experience here. I wonder if the different types of tick have differing tastes. I bet they do, like humans do. Humans are not generally their chosen meal, but if the eggs are brought into your path by another animal and hatched, the odds are they will make do with you. Charming. Keeping your animals clear of ticks is a good idea. You can treat them with all kinds of pharmaceuticals, but although it will dramatically reduce the numbers, you may still get some ticks. Yes, they are pretty persistent creatures. Some will even attach. They can drop into your zone while still hungry, as in your human zone, and seek another host. Wild animals will constantly reinfect any area they access, so it is constant. The fewer ticks in your zone reduces the chance of a bite. You can treat animals with all kinds of stuff, but still keep checking them, as there may still be one little B asterisk, 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 you get the idea, that gets through. They mainly go for the head, particularly the ears, inside and out, and under the armpits. Don't we all? They can, of course, go anywhere. But if they're quite romantic then in their own way, aren't they? And they can, of course, go anywhere. But if you're free, if you're in a rush, these are the main areas to check. Yes, do that with your kids, obviously, and pets. Dogs and cats love being checked for ticks, but may balk at having them removed. Yes, I have noticed that. So a couple more paras here. Removal of ticks. I've used this method to lessen the pain, not for the tick, but for yourself, and for access in awkward areas, but use with care. Put a squish of fly spray onto a cotton bud. Some people use vodka. Some say it's a waste of vodka. And put carefully at the tick. At the point the tick attaches, it will die and release its grip. I guess it will. I wouldn't put fly spray on myself, but you guess you could just wash it off afterwards, can you? I have in the past used Vaseline. That might be better to smear, as it's supposed to smother them, but it takes more time, and I had much less success. Try putting that right next to an eye. Yeah, fair play. If you see a tick about to move on your animal, nab it before it attaches if possible. I just tweak them out if I see them and try to avoid pulling the animal's hair. The anesthetic the ticks inject makes it not too painful. Oh, I see. So they do that a bit like mosquitoes, giving you a bit of anesthetic first. The bite may bleed, as they also use an anticoagulant. Little rascals. If you know you're going into a ticky or unknown area, try to wear pale clothing to spot them more easily. Good tips. Tuck your trousers into your socks or tie around the bottom of the legs. Me and Gary use our cable ties for that, I suspect. At the end of a stroll, check each other and brush down. Well, there's a rainbow or a silver lining to that cloud as you brush each other down at the end of a walk. Nice romantic end to a walk. Further prevention, keep trackways clear of long grasses, even at the edges as stems fall in, and will brush against prospective hosts. As soon as the weather turns warm and dry, we begin to notice our little chums. We walk through the high usage tracks where it will be grazed later, i.e. we don't want to cut them yet and collect ticks in the tub. This year, on day 1, I collected 50. Yikes! I lost count. Day 2 was 20, day 3 was 6, and day 4 just 1. Okay, they mainly sit at the ends of grass stems, but may use other plants too. They're such rascals, aren't they? So incredibly evolved in their sort of nasty technology of catching their hosts. Ticks are just a dark blob, mainly on the end of a stem. If they sense a warm body, they put out their little legs and wave at you and will happily hop onto you if you let them. I have yet to test a double-sided sticky tape wrapped around a stick to collect them. Just an idea. This woman's an expert and obviously devotes a lot of her time and life to this. If you get a bite, remove the tick ASAP. Keep the tick if possible. Not always easy, I know. Hold pinched in an often folded tissue until you get to the base camp. Oh, but I think it's back home. Okay. Then either put into a seal pot and label, or put a good length strip of sellotape and fold back onto your prize and press around the edges. Okay. This is for taking to medics. If you do become ill after a tick bite, this is one reason to keep them. And you can obviously laminate them in sellotape, as she suggests here. She says the incubation time is not short, so keep safe for up to a month. Oh, I see. This is with incubation of Lyme's disease or other tick-related diseases. Check for symptoms on the internet, and if you match or nearly match them, go to a medic ASAP. Both Lyme's and Rocky Mountain fever are potentially very serious. We were aware of the risks, but did not see a tick bite, so we were fooled. We keep some antibiotic handy that will act against both of the above diseases. This is for Lyme's, as Alan is so susceptible, not normal procedure, but did not take them. It was exactly what the doctor prescribed, and it acts quickly, but the course must be completed in future. Should it ever happen again, cringe. We will take them anyway. So there's the thing. Thank you, Kathy, for that. Thank you, Alison Thompson, for sharing this on your livingthedream.com blog. You keep the tick so that you can give it to the medic. Okay, so let's and I've got a final word to share with you after that, because I feel like I want to end on a high note and not into the sort of prehistoric nastiness of ticks. Credit to Kathy Clark for the tick post. Bridget saying good morning to you, Bridget Mapley. Thank you for joining us. And Alison says, I found a huge full-blooded tick nicely nestled behind at the back of my knee. It's now dead and in my freezer just in case I develop any symptoms. All clear so far, fingers crossed. But this is the second tick I've found attached to me in as many months. Downside of living here. It is indeed, but we had them in Devon where we used to live. So before I wish you a final bon fin de semana, I want to read to you something really beautiful that somebody, she hasn't given me permission to reveal her identity, but this is in the Happy Homesteaders group. And I'd like to leave you with this. It's almost poetry in these crazy times. I've just freaked you out with ticks. Other people, the mainstream media, are freaking you out with coronavirus stuff. I would like to present a little counter to that, courtesy of this lovely post in our Happy Homesteaders. Actually, no, it's not in our Happy Homesteaders group. This person is a member of our Happy Homesteaders group. This is what she says. At this point, I find it more useful to disconnect from any sensationalist type of media and instead connect to Mother Earth, to my inner compass, and to the simple things in life: eating, sleeping, walking, cleaning, gardening, talking, meditating, breathing deeply, all that good stuff. This is a time where real transformation can happen, and media keeps creating drama to keep us busy and distracted. The world is saturated with fake news, both the mainstream media and alternative independent media. Both use the same strategies of making you fearful, blaming them, and creating poorly researched articles to convince you of whatever they want you to believe in. It's important to be discerning. Freedom comes from within, and we are the ones that need to transform. Only then society can transform. Society is the sum total of us. Transformation starts with each one of us, how we live our lives, and then society changes. There's no one to blame. There's no one to glorify. We're all in this together, and we're equally responsible for the world we live in. It's not always easy, but anyway, I'm excited to be part of the transformation to make this life even more beautiful. That is wonderful. Really nice, and a great way to finish the live stream. We'll see you on Monday. Bon fin de semana to you. Take care. Have a super weekend, and thanks for tuning in this morning.